So from the SBs to traveling in Europe, what are some other opportunities that presented themselves? Playing overseas, and like what's some cool experiences that you had?
Oh my gosh, that could be a whole nother show. I living in Europe is a trip. It's a grind playing professionally overseas. It's tough, You get dedicating the majority of your year in a place that you don't know, oftentimes with a language you don't speak. You got to talk about being adaptable. You just got to make it happen and make it work. I will tell you, so my last year playing overseas, I played in Siberia, Russia. I played in the capital city of Siberia, Russia. And I played there from October until May.
That sounds miserable.
So I couldn't have picked any colder months to be in Siberia. And it was so gnarly. I don't know how else to explain it. It was, I'll tell you one example. So I tell us quite a few Russian stories because they're just funny. But when I remember the first day I landed there, I played in a city called Novosibirsk, which is the capital of Siberia. And my team's there to greet me at the airport. And one of the first things our team manager tells me is, welcome, blah, 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 blah. We're going to take you to your apartment. Here's your car. Da, da, da. It's standard stuff, right? And he goes, tomorrow we're going to pick you up and you're going to go get your jacket. And it's October, so it's not super duper cold yet, right? It's probably in like the 50s, high 40s. It's a little chilly.
Yeah,
but
it's Palmdale in the winter.
You're okay, right? Yeah. And I say to him, I go, no, I'm good. I bought a jacket. I did. I just bought a really nice down Nike jacket, knowing that it was going to be cold, right? And he kind of goes in his Russian way. He goes, yeah, like, you don't have a jacket. And I'm like, no, seriously, I bought it. It's really nice. It's in my bag. I can show you. And he's like, stupid American, you know, jacket. He goes, believe me, you're going to want to go get your jacket. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So the next day they pick me up. I go to this like tailor place. They're measuring me like head to toe. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. And then I kind of forget about it, right? A couple weeks pass. I go to our gym, and we have a locker room. In my locker, there's this huge box. It's like cardboard box. It's like, I don't even know. It's like 5 feet tall and like 3 feet in. And I'm like, guys, like, what is this? And they're like, that's your jacket. And I'm like, my what? And I open it up, and it's stuffed full with this black mass. And I take it out, and it's this jacket. It weighs like 15 pounds. And I'm like looking at it, and it's like, and I put it on, and like the cuffs are like that, and the hood is massive, and it's got like this thick foxtail over the top of the thing, and it goes all the way down to my feet. And I'm like, well, guys, when am I ever gonna wear this thing? I look inside the lapel, and it says minus 40 degrees, and I'm like, when am I ever gonna wear this? And then they're like, just wait. and I'm like, all right. And I'll tell you right now, if I didn't have that jacket, I would be dead. That's how cold it is in Siberia.
Like, how does anything function there? The water, the fuel,
it's unbelievable. That city that I lived in had 2 million people lived in it. 2 million people. I remember one day, I'll never forget this. It was like the end of January, so we were like knee deep in winter. We had an early morning practice. I step out of my apartment. There's a bank across the street from my apartment with one of those like revolving digital thermometers. Mm-hmm. And I walk out of my apartment, and I'm thinking, dude, it's cold today. And it was cold every day. But I'm like, there's something going on here. I look up at the thermometer. Take a guess what it read.
-5.
Negative 56 degrees.
Shut the fuck. How is that even possible?
Minus 56 degrees. And people always ask me, they go, is that Celcius or Fahrenheit? And I tell them, when it gets that cold, it doesn't matter.
Does not matter.
There becomes a point, this is true, where Fahrenheit and Celsius actually reach each other when you're negative. And there's no disparity anymore. I don't know what the actual temperature is. We could look it up, but it was minus 56 degrees.
You know, Yukon Sarah actually mentioned that.
Yeah, we interviewed a gal who lives in the Yukon, like way out in the middle of nowhere. And she's like, oh, yeah, it's 0. Woo, warm day. I'm like, 0 is warm?
Oh, gnarly.
I'm like, here in California, when it's 60 degrees, I'm like, oh, I better put on a sweater. It's a little nipply. Negative 50 degrees. Jesus.
No, I agree with what she's saying, because there would be days when the sun would come out finally, and it would be a nice day. It was maybe 15 below zero, and the parks would be completely full of people. Moms.
The number's -40, by the way.
-40.
-40. It equalizes.
-40 is when Celcius and Farenheit collide, and they no longer are different.
My God.
-15, parks totally full, moms and their kids, because it's finally a nice day at -15 degrees. Kids on the swings, going on the merry-go-round, going down slides, because it's 15 below.
Prior to this podcast, if you would have told me, can humans survive at -50 degrees, yes or no, I would have said absolutely not. Their lungs freeze.
Only
you're
if
dead.
they have the Russian jacket.
Yeah, exactly. The Russian jacket. Like, see, this is why we can never go to war again, like large-scale war as a country, because Russia or China, they're going to fuck us up because Americans have all become pansies. Like, I was in the army, and I can only imagine, like, if I show up for a war and it's -50, I'm just going to ask somebody to shoot me. I have no interest in fighting a war in -50. Like, your gun won't even work.
No. My car, very few people have garages. So you got to park your car outside.
Yeah, everything freezes.
So I would get up in the morning, and during the night, it's 40, 50 below zero. I wake up in the morning, and I pray in my car that my car starts. And I had a brand new car. So I get in my car, I would sit in there, and I would you click the thing one, and it kind of warms up the engine a little bit. I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. And I turn the ignition, and you could literally feel the engine block going like, just breaking up all the stuff until finally the oil was smooth enough to get going. But you could feel the engine going. I would see people that would have their car would be in their parking spot, and then the parking spot would be right in front of their kitchen window, so they'd have a bottom apartment. So they would take an extension cord and plug it into their kitchen, and then take a hairdryer and open up their hood and then hair dry their engine block to try to heat it up.
Just enough to get the oil.
Just enough to get the oil going and get the car started.
Oh my God.
It was gnarly, man. I was like, where am I? Like, what is going on right now? What's happening?
Maybe not worth the money. So wait, what happens when you show up for the Russian national team? And I'm imagining there's some guys that only speak Russian and some guys that only speak Italian, and you speak English and maybe some Italian and maybe some broken Russian. Like, what are the dynamics of playing on an international team where everybody's international?
Yeah, that's tough. It's like in Russia. Yeah, you're right. I mean, very few of the guys spoke good English. Most of them spoke broken English. You know what I mean? Our team was good. Which meant that I had a number of their Russian national team actual players on our team. Those guys are well-traveled. They might have even played in different leagues outside of Russia. The universal language in volleyball is pretty much English. And so those guys spoke pretty good English. Our coach spoke zero English, which for me was fantastic because he was an idiot. He didn't know what he was doing. He was a horrible volleyball coach. And so not having to communicate with him on a regular basis was actually beneficial for me. Our assistant coach was Italian, funny enough. So we would just speak in Italian. He also spoke pretty good English, but we were the only two guys on the team that spoke Italian. And so we would just talk about the coach. Nobody knew what we were saying. And that was
amazing.
Pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
until the KGB comes in and takes you to the gulag, because somebody in the KGB definitely speaks Italian.
I had some gnarly experiences with the Russian police. I remember not only did they tell me we're going to go get your jacket when I land there, but our team manager goes, hey, Ryan, this is serious. Listen up here. This is your cell phone. Right now, there's one number that's programmed in it. It's my number. There will be a time during your time here when the police will pull your car over and ask you for papers. And you do that all the time, right? They shake people down, whatever it is over in Russia that they do. I don't know what they're asking for because it's all in Russian. So I'm like, and he goes, if that happens, when that happens, I want you to take your phone out, find my number, dial it, and hand your phone to the police officer. I'm like, okay, this is day one.
You're like, am I going to get shot in the head?
Seriously, I'm like, what should I be worried? And he's like, just do what I say and you'll be fine. Gosh. So 2, 3, probably 3.5, 4 months in, never got pulled over. Totally fine. Then one day I'm going to practice. I'm going on a roundabout. I come out of the roundabout going towards our gym, and sure enough, there's a cop with the AK-47, pulls me over, taps on my window with the AK-47. I roll down the window, and he says something in Russian, he was not happy. Plus, he's standing outside in 45-degree weather, right? Minus 45-degree weather. But so I very slowly take my phone, find our team manager's number, I dial it, and I hand it to the guy, and he, with his gun, says, get that away from me. I don't, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, you need to take this. So I hand it to him. He finally picks it up, and he says something, and then he's like, listen, I can see him kind of like listening, and his face kind of changes. And he hands me back the phone, and he goes, sorry, you can go. And I moved on.
And luckily, he didn't get shot by the AK-47.
Yeah, and the whole time I'm thinking, man, I wish I could know what was said in that conversation. Like,
Yeah.
I'm almost like, I hope your family's okay, as I'm like driving away.